When you search up Oxford Classics, which is my course, onto YouTube, I'm the second result, but I'm not the first, because that is the official University of Oxford channel video about studying classics at Oxford University. Let's work out how much is true, how much is embellished, are there any lies? But yeah, I haven't seen this video yet, and let's simply react to it.
Ever since I was little, I've always been fascinated by breaking things apart. So I used to drive my parents crazy with taking apart various kitchen equipment and pens and anything I could get my hands on. And in a sense, I felt that that was the same with Latin, that you're really breaking a language down to its most basic, intricate level.
Already, that sounds like such a personal statement thing you would write. I've always wanted to study languages because I'm obsessed with understanding how things work. I think once you go to university, you go to Oxford, you realise that a lot of people just like classics a bit, more than any other subject. But most people say this at interview, but then drop it in real life. But here they've clearly brought Poppy back to continue exactly the super impassioned person she probably was at interview.
The thing that excites me about classics is the chance for a kind of holistic study of a whole society.
I always like to...
Oh my gosh! So first of all, I paused that as a good time because this person on the right is actually my director of studies. That's very weird to see. I was not expecting that at all. She's the person who did my tutorials last term. We have checkups at the start and at the end of every term, so yeah, I've seen her quite a lot. But I'm quite excited to see what my director of studies is about to say.
Always liked reading literature, understanding it. But with Latin, I found that I could combine that with my interest in language and sort of see how literary meaning, as I would say now, could be conveyed in a different language, which I found absolutely fascinating. But I was also interested at school in things like history and sort of, I suppose, bits of philosophy. I'd sort of heard of that. And I discovered that at Oxford you could do basically all these different things together in one degree.
There's much more of a chance than other universities to really study texts in detail in the original languages, and for this the four-year course is essential.
That is true. There is definitely more ability, even compared to Cambridge, to study texts in their original languages. But the way that guy talked about it as if it was a positive thing, I reckon a lot of Oxford students, once you come to especially this text and context paper, where you just have so much text that you've got to understand the context all around and so much reading the original languages, I'm sure everyone at one point has wished they did not go to Oxford and didn't have to do this stupid paper. So yeah, everyone loves it until you start to actually have to do it, and then it can get quite tedious.
The first half is called moderations, known as mods, which you're examined on in the second term of second year. And once you've completed those, you go on to greats.
While the course is more rigid in the first half, it is really serving both as a chance to study two of the greatest authors of antiquity, Homer and Virgil, as well as to get an introduction to all the different aspects of classics which you can then study in more detail and as you like in the second half of the course.
Beautiful transitions there, someone's had a great time with that. But yeah, that is true. At the start for mods, which is what I'm doing right now, it's 5 terms worth, and we basically have 4 terms of teaching, and that 5th term is kind of revision and then exams. So that is more than most other courses, because most other courses are 3 years long. So yeah, that means we're there for an extra year. And Oxford Classics, I believe, is the only course in the whole country that is a 4-year course that does not have a master's. You just get a normal Bachelor of Arts, and also you don't have a year abroad or a year in industry or anything like that. There's no foundation year in year 1. Some people like that idea of, being a special course, because this is, the Oxford course is always like this.
One key point to stress about the classics course at Oxford is that you can take it without having studied either Latin or Greek to A level.
For those who take up the language from scratch, you have 5 lessons a week, which is very intensive and very full on. But at the same time, it allows you to really gel with other people on the course and get to know people very quickly.
That is also half true, but then they kind of skip over the bit of the negative stuff as well. I am learning Latin from scratch, so I have this. I am going every single day, 5 days a week, to learn Latin for 1 hour. And I do think classics is good in that regard, because you do definitely mix with other people in your course, not in your college, more than other people do, because you have these central language classes. But on the other hand, as I might have talked about in some videos, the way it worked out for me, I'm in a class with 3rd years, one other fresher with me and then 3rd years, and so we chat to the 3rd years as well, but they're basically, almost done. They're over halfway through their course, they've got 3rd and 4th year obviously. They don't really care about making new friends, especially freshers, so I do feel like I've missed out slightly on that. And of course, they completely just glossed over how really frustrating it can be that every single day at 10 o'clock you've got to be at the language faculty. It's hard work, I think people do forget. It's tedious and it's a lot of work going to these language classes every single day for 2 whole terms. But I've just finished my 2 terms now, so I wonder if next time I'm going to feel way more free, not having to be there at 10 o'clock every day.
So I'd realised that there was quite a lot of language-based work. The sudden requirement to read these dozen books, quite often in the original, did seem to absolutely sort of blow my mind.
True, it does blow your mind. And notice how she didn't say, "Yo, but I got there in the end," or whatever. It just blows your mind, mostly in a bad way, how stupid and hard it is.
The classics degree is itself, so in many ways can be counted as a joint course because it involves a component with philosophy, which can include modern philosophy. So that's one distinctive feature about it.
Almost weekly I get emails suggesting that I go on various archaeological digs, both at home and abroad.
No one reads the archaeology emails that you get, or the philosophy faculty emails you get. No one goes to the special lecturers. I guess it's cool. I'm sure 2 people go, but yeah, otherwise it's just flooding your inbox really with emails from 6 different departments.
We are the largest classics faculty in the world. I mean, what does that mean? It means there's somebody here doing anything.
That is true. That is brilliant. I'm on a weird course. There are basically 2 freshers on this specific iteration of the classics course, which is me and my friend who are with the 3rd years, hence why that's worked out for us. But it's absolutely no problem for us. They sort us out so well.
The library facilities for classics are extraordinary, with both the Bodleian, which receives a copy of every book published in the UK, but also the specialist classics library, the Sackler, which has a great lending facility for undergraduates. But in addition to that,
I've been to the Sackler, I think, once or twice. I went very early on. But to be honest, our college library is good, and there is no better feeling than seeing a book on your reading list, sitting in the library. You get up, you check if it's in your college library, 10 metres away, and you find the book. So satisfying. Doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, I barely have to go to the Sackler, which I guess is a good thing. But
most of the colleges will have got very detailed classics libraries of their own, which have been developed over the decades to cater for undergraduates.
It sounds very basic, but a most wonderful online system called Solo, which allows you to research books, articles, and find them anywhere in the university in any library.
Not wonderful. Solo is not wonderful, and the authentication it takes is so hard. You've always got to put in these digits. Sometimes they've got to text you. The search system is really bad. I'm only half joking. It's a good system, but tedious.
Library.
As soon as you arrive at Oxford, you meet with your tutor and you're given a reading list and you're told to write an essay about some topic that will be due in a week's time, and you're literally just left to your own devices after that.
A lot of it.
Kind of true, kind of not. They give you help. I think he's made it sound more of a thing than it is. But the work side of that is definitely true. People get dropped in, and then, at the end of freshers week, you've still got something in straight away, basically.
When you first step into it, can seem very daunting, particularly with a tutorial situation where you're handed an unseen piece of Latin and you're told to translate on the spot.
It's never happened to me, that. Maybe it happens to some people. Again, it's never really that much of a thing where, you're given no help and you suddenly have to stand up and translate this to your tutor. See, I always used to see these kind of clips, and I was so excited to go to a tutorial, and it would really feel like this. Our tutorial rooms are nowhere near as nice, or at least as big as this. Actually, the one that we've had this term has been nicer than the one last term. Last term we were just kind of in a random room. It didn't feel very sort of Oxfordy or classicsy, or it does feel more like that this time, to be fair. A bit more like this.
You get to spend time one-on-one, perhaps two-on-one, with a great expert in your field, and you really get to bounce ideas off of your tutor.
I've always been with a 3-on-1, doesn't matter that much. You are there with an expert, but it's not really like you're bouncing ideas off them. Mostly, they ask you a question, you answer it averagely, they fill in the gaps, they ask you another question. You're not on the same intellectual plane to be going back and forth. It doesn't really work like that. Possibly it will once we get better in future years. Maybe in different topics it's easier than others. So in philosophy, maybe you can have more of a novel idea that you can go back and forth with. But if it's just, literature, what I found often this term in our tutorials, when we're looking at the Aeneid, which is this Latin text, if you don't know that this bit is echoing lines from another part of the same text or from a different text, and the author's using that for X, Y, Z, That's just objectively a better point. So often our tutor asks us, do we know what's going on? We make a guess, and they'll kind of fill us in with the context.
It is intense, it is full on, and at times you can sit there feeling absolutely stupid. But at other times there's that wonderful moment where your tutor's face lights up as you say something that is at least vaguely intellectual and interesting that sparks conversation.
The tutors, more often than not, are learning from you at the same time, so there is a certain, I think, intellectual respect.
Again, I'm not really sure tutorials are like this at all. I think most of them are just fine. You don't really feel stupid. Your tutors don't really make you feel like that. And it's just a bit of a normal chat about the subject. It's not really the case that, you suddenly have an aha moment and everything becomes clear. It's just like a chat about your piece of work. If you ever met with a teacher about an essay for some reason in school, it's basically that. Again, maybe these guys are fourth years, but I'm not sure my tutors have learned anything from me at all.
Every week you'll have at least one essay along with various exercises in grammar to do. So your days are definitely filled, but that's not to say that there aren't a few spare minutes or indeed hours to dedicate to other pursuits.
Again, I don't know why this girl is making it sound so much bigger than it is. Again, maybe it's fourth year they're talking about, but right now it is reasonable. You do have quite a lot of work, but you have more than minutes or hours. You can take a day off a week, which maybe even still doesn't sound like that much. But, you're not working that much, at least in first year so far. You're working hard for sure, but...
I'll usually have about 2 days to devote to reading.
There we go. I actually thought that guy was going to say 2 days off a week, and I was going to be like, fair play. Then he said for reading the material, so I wonder what he's about to say next.
I'll usually have about 2 days to devote to reading material for each essay, and then 1 day for each essay, actually to write it.
So I guess maybe he's getting 2 essays a week. 2 days of reading and 1 of writing is 3 days times by 2 is 6 and 1 day off. I'm not sure quite what he meant by that.
The thing that I have developed or discovered most significantly is the capacity to speak up and speak out for whatever you think is correct.
Fair enough. Not sure what that has to do with classics. Maybe that's the tutorial system. I think the thing I've learnt so far the most is how to form your own ideas about a text. So when you have a reading list of all these other scholars writing about the text, you can't just take their ideas. You've got to use that to find a way to have your own ideas about the text. But maybe that's a technical and too boring thing to put in the video. So she's something incredibly generic and a bit vague. But fair enough, good for her.
At the moment of application, you have to choose to apply to course 1 or course 2.
So we have people coming from all sorts of different backgrounds at school, some who have had the chance to learn both Latin and Greek to A-level, a lot who have just Latin and no Greek, or sometimes vice versa.
There we go, that's me, sometimes vice versa. There's 2 of us, like I'm saying, in the whole of the undergrads who are in this specific scenario. I'm one in my college, and of course there's my friend who I keep talking about in a different college. But actually, as it happens, a fourth year classicist in my own college, where there are 5 classicists a year, 6 classicists a year, so within the 24 of us, there's someone else in fourth year. So maybe, I wonder when this video was made. Yeah, maybe she was making this video just as this other guy had been accepted in for this specific course. He's just finishing off now. Shout out to him. He's actually, with his classics degree, going on to do postgraduate medicine, I believe. So there we go. I guess you could really do anything with classics.
But it's also totally possible to come to Oxford and do classics, do this degree with all the different bits in it, if you have neither Latin nor Greek to that level, if you have neither Latin nor Greek at all. And what happens then is that you pick one language. We don't make you learn both intensively to start with, but you learn either Latin or Greek up to mods in the second year, and then you can add in the other language afterwards.
What I'm looking for in applicants is...
Let's go back, let's have a slow motion replay. Look, they messed up that effect. You can see here, Gail speaking, the black bar comes in, the person doing the effect was brilliant at the start, obviously lost concentration at 7:30.
Afterwards.
What I'm looking for in applicants is a combination of talent, commitment and imagination. If people have got those 3, they're doing pretty well.
Talent, commitment and imagination. Talent, yes. Yeah, I would say that's quite fair actually. I guess maybe talent and commitment come together because the more committed you are, the more likely you are to have cultivated a talent in learning the languages, for example. Imagination, maybe a bit overrated. I think you could just have basically commitment. Imagination is probably a bit of a bonus. Horrible posture here, isn't it? This cannot be a comfortable place to read. Sitting like this, with your feet on kind of, I don't know, maybe some books or something going on, looking down, this cannot be good for your neck either.
Hopefully if you are interested in coming and doing classics at Oxford, you'll be interested in classical stuff and in the ancient world. So go out and find out as much about that as you can, following your own interests.
Again, I'm not really focusing on the content here, but Gail, my tutor, clearly I imagine there's someone sitting in front of her who she's speaking to, but the camera's directly in front, so her eyes are flicking between looking at the camera and then looking who she's probably speaking to.
Go to museums, if you have a chance ever to see a classical play, read things, of course, books about ancient history or works of classical literature in translation.
She's breaking the fourth wall, but that's good awareness of different camera techniques by my tutor there.
If you get on well at interview and actually enjoy it, in a sense, although it's terrifying at the same time, I'd say that's a really good indicator that you're suited for a tutorial system.
And if that's the sort of thing that you enjoy about the interview experience, then hopefully that's something that you'll continue to enjoy when you get here.
When you get here. No ifs and buts and maybes, it's just when you get here. If you enjoy your interview, you're in.
Oxford Classics go on to do an extraordinary range of things. Many of them pursue careers in the law, go into become barristers, solicitors. Many of them go into the city, but many of them go into teaching, or really a whole range of activities.
It's definitely true that you can go into most things after doing most Oxford courses, and I always used to be frustrated when I would read the handout and it would say future careers or something like that. It would just list the same thing for every single course because most things can do most things, but fair enough.
So charity work I've had a recent student going into the army, I've got a recent student working for the Labour Party.
It's quite funny you said the Labour Party there. I know it's not quite the same thing, but this whole roster of people in the video are all quite posh and quite white. The classics course is more diverse than just really posh white people, so yeah, fair enough. That's a separate point to the Labour Party thing, of course, but you know.
I think one of the wonders of the classics is that it just opens so many doors, which a lot of people don't often realise. They think, oh, it's a dead language and a dead civilization, what could possibly be useful about that in the real world? But it's the skills you learn whilst studying it that can be applied then to life beyond Oxford and beyond study.
There we go, we have character development here. Earlier she was talking about how she's learnt to speak up, and now we come full circle to see why that's so useful. It's helped her in her future career. A beautiful character arc that we're seeing just at the end of this video.
It's seen by employers as a very valuable, rigorous degree that really sets people up for anything.
This is interesting because I wonder if this video is to persuade people who are thinking of applying to Oxford to apply specifically for classic. And I think a lot of the stuff they're saying is just generic to all Oxford courses.
If you've been excited by Greece or Rome, even if you've just watched the odd film or two about it, if that experience of classics has given you some sort of intellectual excitement, then I think there's a good chance this is a course you would enjoy.
Might be possible. You've watched one video, you liked it, whatever. But to be fair, you know, that can spark an interest. I watched a film once about an astronaut. True story, I really wanted to be an astronaut for those 3 weeks after watching that film. Then I decided that was not for me. But yeah, no, fair enough, maybe. Let me put my computer to one side and my headphones. This kind of video is probably very good if the target audience was someone who didn't really know much about Oxford or classics and just wanted an intro into what Oxford can give you, what classics can give you as a course. I guess this video does go alongside the rest of the information you have whilst applying. So you would have looked at the booklet and you would see, I guess, exactly what grades you need, because they didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff. They didn't talk about really what you do in terms of the specific modules and options and stuff like that. I don't think there were too many false expectations there. They have to be super amazing at the subject to get in, or that the subject is super hard or super easy. I got my computer back up to look and see if there were any comments. This video's had 37,000 views and no one has commented. I'm not going to be the first one to comment. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you did, if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one.